G'day, ZiggyD here, and in this video I want to share some in-depth critique on Fallout 76, because currently it's a very fun, but heavily flawed game. So far I've only stuck with making guides and showing off some gameplay because I really wanted to get some solid hands-on time before I judged the game's features and their implementation. And now that I've played over 20 hours, I feel like I can start diving into some analysis of what Bethesda is offering us here. Now, I'm nowhere near able to give a full review of the game, no one actually is, but let's take an early look at the current state of the game. Before that though, it's worth stating that Fallout 76 just straight up isn't going to appeal to all Fallout fans. It's a big divergence from the single player games, and Bethesda is setting out to make something quite different here. The game's going to appeal to a different group of people entirely as a result. And I'm not going to waste any time critiquing the decision to make a different game, to make this a multiplayer title, or to have storytelling be done through non-human NPCs, notes, terminals, and audiologs, and that sort of thing. I am instead going to look at the game in context of what it is trying to be, a multiplayer Fallout exploration and survival game. So firstly, let's talk about the good. I've been having a lot of fun with Fallout 76. Straight up, there it is, it's fun. Both solo and multiplayer experiences for me have been a great time, and I'm feeling a very addictive feeling from the gameplay loops, and each time the beta goes down, even after the last session which was 9 hours long, I've wanted to play more. The game's graphics, like most of Bethesda's titles, are quite dated, technically speaking, especially when you pay close attention to things like textures and some visual effects. However, the game itself, despite that, can still be quite beautiful, which is thanks to, I think, very strong environmental design. Picking your way through forests with beautiful lighting shining through the trees is pure pleasure, and there are plenty of vistas to enjoy. This really helps lend to just a great feeling when you're exploring and walking between the game's many points of interest. It's a step up visually from Fallout 4, and the presence of colours besides brown and grey is a welcome addition to the experience, I think. Now, longevity has been a question I've been getting a lot, and although it's impossible to speak to what sort of endgame the game will have to offer, the sheer amount of content in this game is staggering. There's just so much content. There's so many quests, locations to explore, and things to find. Based on what I've been able to do in just the 20 hours, it seems like it'll take hundreds of hours to see everything the game has to offer. I've certainly read some comments of people saying that they don't feel like this should be a full-price title, and usually basing that on content or it not having much content. And I think that's definitely not going to be true. I think it's pretty reasonable to say that maybe it shouldn't be a full-price title based on some other issues I'll talk about later in this video, but not on content. There's shitloads of content in this game, if you'll excuse my Australian. Now, character progression in Fallout 76 is also something I wanted to note as a very good aspect of the game. It's the best of any Bethesda Fallout title I've played so far, and I think probably the best of any of their open-world RPGs. The special system, perks, and gear progression are all much deeper and much more satisfying than they have been in the past. Making builds to do different things and modifying your character to deal with the different challenges that present themselves to you is very satisfying thanks to a large variety of impactful perk cards and tools at your disposal. The more paced out and varied gear progression is super addictive too. Not only are there a ton of weapons with different uses, lots more weapons than in Fallout 4, but salvaging gear, collecting junk, and crafting a huge variety of mods and weapons and armor gives a well-paced and super satisfying sense of progression. I really enjoy on some fundamental level just collecting hunting rifles, breaking them down, learning new mods, and then modding out my hunting rifle to suit my needs and make it stronger. I don't know exactly what it is about that, but it's just very satisfying. There's also a very strong link between the perks and special stats you choose and how you load out your character with gear. There's a lot on offer here for people that want to either optimize their build and try and make the best character possible, or build their character towards a playstyle they'll really enjoy. Next up, multiplayer. I guess it's not entirely surprising, but bringing a friend along to explore and beat on super mutants is really quite fun. Coming together to take down a tougher enemy, or working together to find clues to solve a quest, or even splitting up to take on the different repair work to get a nuclear power plant working again, offers some pretty unique experiences to the game. And since different group members can specialize in different things, like lockpicking, hacking, crafting, or different combat styles, there's an extra layer of strategy not present in solo play. And it's often just a good laugh as well, since the Fallout universe can be quite entertaining itself, and shenanigans abound. You're getting all the action. Jesus, explosions going off. Whoa, Amy! What the fuck? Finally, something else that I'm glad of is that the game is actually offering some decent challenges. Some enemies are super tough, some quests require some thought and decent effort to actually beat, and even the management of resources across multiple encounters provides some decent challenge. There's actually a bit of a survival feel to the game there. Now, you've probably seen people not really taking any damage from low-level enemies and things dying in one hit in the early game footage, and this concerned me that the game would be all too easy. Especially from just my Greenbrier experiences, everything was pretty easy. But I am quite pleased to say that once you venture a little further from the vault, things can get quite nasty. And now let's talk about the bad, the ugly, and the downright baffling problems with Fallout 76, which, let's be honest, is probably the reason most of you guys are watching this video anyway. Firstly, the egregious lack of crucial PC features. For example, there is no field of view options. Now, this isn't new for Bethesda, but in the past, players have been able to edit files, use console, or use mods and things like that to fix problems like this. With this being an online game, Bethesda cannot rely on the community to fix something like this anymore, so the responsibility is now shifted to them entirely. Secondly, there is no text chat. Now, Fallout 76 has a pretty big focus on cooperation and player interaction, and I think it's pretty much a mandatory feature for an online game with such a focus to have text chat. And worst of all, in terms of the straight up missing PC features, there is no push-to-talk option for the voice chat. This one just baffles me. Voice chat is either always on or off. That means that if you have a mic plugged in and voice chat on, your mic is live, and any sounds you make will be broadcast to nearby players. This one actually just really skeeves me out. It's really uncomfortable to be concerned about making any noise in your own home, not to mention the potential for private conversations, eating, and other more lascivious sounds to be publicly broadcast without your desire. The end result is that without push to talk, most people are just going to turn their voice chat off, and that is what has happened so far in the beta in my experience. And what that means is that there'll be no fun player interactions, no community building, and no new friendships being formed from just randomly meeting someone in the wasteland and having a chat with them. And that's a real shame, I think. So I make my plea to Bethesda, and I think you guys should too if you care about the game. Please implement text chat and push to talk so this game can grow into a fun and vibrant social experience. It's got everything else it needs to support it, but missing these fundamental features irradiates away any possibility. Now, also not new to Fallout 76 is a lack of proper PC user experience focus. Some keybinds cannot be rebound, or they function poorly if rebound, and menus make little sense and are cumbersome to use. Escape, for example, opens the map and doesn't close out of menus. It's most shocking in the building menu, I think, which is a pretty important part of the game. To select from the top bar categories, you use the Z and C keys, and to move up and down through the menus, you use the up and down arrow keys, the ones on the right side of your keyboard. This means either moving your hand across the keyboard or taking your hand off the mouse. It's awful and an unfortunate side effect of porting a menu from console to PC instead of designing the user experience for each platform individually. Continuing with the pain train, the storage space you have access to is woefully limited. 400 pounds is your stashed limit, and many players have already hit this with just crafting supplies. Quite simply, this will be unplayable a few weeks down the line in a game that's longevity is heavily tied to collecting things and crafting. Now, there's a little bit of ray of sunshine here because Pete Hines has hinted on Twitter that the limit may be removed, and I think it will definitely need to be. On a similar note, there is a lot of time spent inventory managing in this game. Mainly the issue is weight management, and while there are a lot of very good tools like perks to help deal with this, it's difficult to know what is actually weighing you down a lot of the time. Showing the total combined weight of each item category to know exactly what's actually heavy would help a lot. Is ammo the thing weighing me down? Is it food and drink? Is it chems? Junk? It's really hard to tell, and it means being over-encumbered a lot more than you should be, and it's not very fun to be over-encumbered and to not really know why. Next, I do have some concerns with PvP mechanics. I think the design decisions are good ones personally, and I know some people don't quite feel the same. But I like the consensual PvP system, and the potential for workshop PvP and hunter-hunted radio are all rather interesting to me. However, it does seem like many of the mechanics may be exploitable and sometimes non-functional, especially when you start combining things like party play with the wanted system. For example, if someone's wanted and their friend in their party is not wanted, they can just kill the wanted person, claim the bounty, and then trade the caps back to them. And you can use such systems to avoid becoming wanted and taking over a workshop and then trade back the wanted status and get rid of it. I won't really go into too much more detail here because personally I need to test the systems a bit more, but I'm afraid that there is a lot of work that'll need to be done here before launch. I really want this PvP system they're going for to work here because I do think it has a lot of potential to fit well into the game, but these mechanics will need to be both well explained to players and also be functional. Now, while I said I wouldn't be criticizing things like the lack of human NPCs or storytelling design decisions, there is one aspect that does need improvement. There is, unfortunately, a fundamental mismatch between the design of having long audio holotapes in a multiplayer game. They kind of just don't work together. Friends talking over your holotape and in-game distractions make it very difficult to enjoy a 5-minute holotape. And you'll encounter this problem very early in the main story quests even. They cannot really solve this problem without a fundamental redesign of how they do storytelling and multiplayer elements, and I don't think that's going to happen. But the problem can be alleviated by allowing us to pause, rewind, and fast-forward holotapes. On the topic of quests, quest markers are a nightmare. Since there are so many quests, and many quests have multiple active stages at the same time, you'll quickly have markers everywhere on your compass. And it's nearly impossible to tell which is which. A simple fix lifted from Elder Scrolls Online, which is to display text stating the quest when you look towards the marker, would mostly solve the problem, I think. Now just quickly, because the topic's come up a lot elsewhere, a note on performance. Game performance in FPS has been great for me personally, and this is not a flex, I'm just on a GTX 1080, not a Ti, just a regular one. So I can't really, as a result, comment on other people with more powerful rigs having bad performance. It just seems like there might be a bit of a hit or miss going on depending on specific configurations and driver settings, but yeah, sorry I can't really speak to that, but I've had good performance personally. Now finally, I am concerned that the integrity of the game is going to be an issue. No doubt you've already heard about uncapped FPS causing things to speed up, essentially a speed hack built into the game. My understanding is that this is due to a fundamental design of the engine which ties physics to FPS, but I'm not a developer, I don't really know how this stuff works. Personally, another thing that I discovered is that we were playing with Zizarin, who lives in Europe, and he was able to play with us on an Australian server with almost no lag. Now that sounds great, sure, we can play with friends from all over the world, but it does suggest that a lot of the game is client-side, which does leave me concerned about what sort of things people might be able to get away with in terms of modifying client-side aspects of the game. Now, I know this isn't exactly a competitive game, and some of you might have the feeling of, well, if someone else wants to cheat and ruin their fun, then it doesn't affect you personally, just let them do what they want. But I actually feel that the integrity of online games is really important, especially when you cannot choose who else might be on your server. If you've ever had someone give you a hacked weapon or destroy all the enemies you're fighting at lightning speeds with a hacked character, then you'll know how much it can take out of the fun of the game for you. It's entirely possible that Bethesda has a way of dealing with these things, but they need to communicate that with us because I'm not so sure at the moment. So with all that said, and despite that long list of problems, Fallout 76 is still a good time. In fact, it's actually quite a lot of fun. It's addictive, and it's even, I think, got the possibility of being a great multiplayer take on the Fallout universe. But this is a hefty list of initial flaws for me to talk about. And I also personally think that it's quite reasonable that you might look at some of these flaws, or the combined list of them, and think, I'm not going to buy the game at full price, or I might even skip it entirely. I think that's pretty reasonable. I really do hope that Bethesda can fix this stuff by launch, but they haven't said much about the sort of feedback they've been getting or how much they plan on changing from the beta. I know this is a beta and things will change, but what exactly? Are they focusing only on bugs, or are they willing to address issues like field of view or push to talk? Are they willing to add new features like text chat? Are they concerned with preventing hacking and exploiting? I just don't know currently, and I really hope Bethesda talks about these issues in their plans. Anyway, hopefully I've drawn some extra attention to things that absolutely need addressing, and hopefully I've helped you decide whether you want to pick up the game at launch, based on its current state. Hopefully I can come back to you guys in a week or two's time with some more positive notes. If you have any thoughts you'd like to share, I'd love to see them in the comments below, but I'm going to make my own plea to you guys here as well. Please put some effort into your comments if you want to leave one. I've had a lot of really low effort comments on my Fallout videos. Don't just say something like, the game is shit, or, you know, provide some extra insight or something of value in your comment. I don't know, maybe I'm asking too much here, but I'm honestly considering deleting low effort comments from my YouTube videos, just so that we can reclaim the comments section for some actual interesting discussion. I mean, I do it in my Twitch chat, and it's a great place as a result, but for some reason, moderation of comments is frowned upon on YouTube. I don't know, anyway, that might be a topic for another video. That's it for now. I'm ZiggyD, and thanks for watching.
Wait, what?
Why?
It'll give you a permanent stat buff if you get this pie out of the porta diner.
Oh. Hey, you're fucking with me.
Right, it takes a few times. It takes a few tries.
There's no way that's real.
Trixie.
There's no way.
Notice the skeleton leaning on the machine.
Oh. I'm gonna go for it as well. Oh my god.